Hey, greetings there, fellow maker. Welcome to Dragon Con. I'm super stoked. We've been working on some cool costumes. I'm excited to show you what we've been doing. Oh, wait, was that the door? Oh, right. No, sorry. I ordered towels. Let me go get those.
Housekeeping.
Oh, all right, the towels. Thank you so much.
Towels, Guardian.
Oh, you're so kind. I got something for you, too. There you go.
Thank you, Guardian.
You're welcome. Don't spend it all in one place. I made a broom. Hey there, fellow maker. Welcome down to the shop. I'm Bill, and today I'm going to show you how I made a broom for Brittany's sweeper bot costume. We figured that if we had to, we could just go get a store-bought broom for the costume and it would look fine. But if we had enough time, we totally wanted to make a custom space broom for Sweepy. Sure enough, the day before we left for Dragon Con, I had to spare like 4 hours, so I knocked this thing out. Let me show you how. The base of this broom was built on a telescoping paint roller handle. I started by cutting it down to length so that it would fit in our luggage. After cutting it down, I reinstalled the screw end so that I could use it later to assemble my broom. Because Brittany is so clever, she ordered some tan colored floor mats to serve as the foam bristles. This saved a ton on painting time. Using my bandsaw and the fence, I cut these floor mats down to the correct width, one at a time. Once I had them all cut to width, I cut them all down to the appropriate length. I made a quick jig to hold the foam close to the blade and up against the fence. This way I could take my foam strips and slice off just the texture. Still using that handy bandsaw, I cut each one of these foam strips into smaller strips, but I kept them all attached at the base. Each one of these squid-looking foam noodles would become a group of foam bristles once they were all glued together. I made many of them. These bundles were then glued together using contact cement. Over time, my weird foam noodle creature grew larger and larger. All of these bundles were glued to one another to form the final bunch of bristles. The rest of the broom parts were cut from a black foam. This was close enough to the color from the in-game reference, so again, I didn't need to paint it. The large part was made from several sheets of foam sandwiched together. This part was cut to shape, leaving a cavity for the bristles. Again, the bandsaw was the hero on this build, making these cuts quickly and accurately. Next, sides were glued onto this main broom part, leaving a hole for the base of the bristles to be attached. After cleaning up all of the edges on the bandsaw, I glued the bristles into place using a combination of both hot glue and contact cement. I wanted to make sure it would be super snug. Now there's a band that wraps around the bristles about halfway down the broom. I made that out of a few strips of thinner EVA foam. The edges were beveled and then glued together to form a rectangle. Once I was sure it fit properly, I hot glued the band to the bristles. I used a ruler to ensure that the piece was the correct and even length from the top of the broom. To connect the handle to the broom head, I found the correct screw thread 3D model on Thingiverse, and I combined it with a cylinder and 3D printed the parts out. This part was wrapped in EVA foam to hide the mechanical functional part inside of the cosmetic broom form. I used a hole saw to cut a plug out of the broom head. This was loaded with hot glue, and then my 3D printed screw piece was plugged into place, creating a strong bond between the two parts. For one more detail on the broom, more layered foam was cut out and sanded to shape. These pieces were carefully attached to the broom with more contact cement, matching the references and adding a little bit more strength. A quick test confirmed that the broom handle screw matched perfectly with my 3D printed socket. For some details, I used the end of my rotary tool. These cut in some small, shallow, circular details. I also 3D printed a little cap for the end of the broom handle. This replaced the default bright yellow cap. The yellow piece in the middle of the handle was simply covered with a couple strips of black foam. That was the final piece, and Sweepy was ready to hit, or at least clean, the floor at Dragon Con. Now I know this isn't a crazy fantasy sword or a super awesome space gun, but it was really fun to put together and it was a pretty satisfying build. I did really do this all in about 4 hours, just about 12 hours before we flew out to Dragon Con. It really shows what you can do if you plan accordingly and have the right tools. Nothing on this broom is fully painted, so I didn't have to wait for any of that paint to dry. So there you go, broom is all done. I really do hope you enjoyed this fun little project. I sure had a good time putting it together. And hey, if you have any questions about this build, be sure to leave those down in the comments below. And as always, all the tools and materials I used for this build can be found down in the description. If you tackle a super cool foam build like this yourself, I would be delighted to see it. So please share pictures with me over on Twitter. I'm at Chinbeard. That's all I've got for you today. Thank you again so much for joining me in this shop. I will see you in the next build. Hey, thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe so you don't miss any of our new weekly prop and costume tutorial videos. For more goodies, head over to our website where you'll find blueprints, tutorial books, articles, and more. We also have a second channel for our Q&A show and extra behind the scenes videos. Thanks again and happy crafting.